Well, the federal budget is back in surplus for the first time in 15 years. It's a $4 billion surplus. Make no mistake, this is a surplus the Liberals would have loved to have handed down. Remember this front page? When Treasurer Josh Frydenberg announced a surplus which never eventuated. That front page idea repeated once again today, but with Jim Chalmers in the starring role. Wayne Swan, you'll remember, also announced 4 surpluses but delivered none of them. So the question now, is Jim Chalmers a genius, or is this a surplus a dog could have delivered, as the opposition continues to claim?
We don't just need to see a budget surplus this year. A drover's dog could deliver a budget surplus this year.
You know, they had 9 cracks at this and went none for 9. Now, Angus Taylor is not a serious person.
The surplus is to be welcomed for sure, and Jim Chalmers does need credit for delivering it and for not allowing Labor ministers to squander it. But we also have to look at why there is a surplus. Strong employment and wages growth accounts for about 40% of revenue upgrades across the forward estimates. Economist Chris Richardson estimates that revenue will be $24 billion higher than in the October budget. We'll know whether that's accurate in just a couple of hours' time. This is because of more company tax and more personal income tax. And he'll join me on the show tomorrow night for his takeout of the budget. But he is calling this Lucky Jim's tax bonanza. 20% of the revenue boost is also because of higher commodity prices. Bracket creep is a massive issue, and we've been covering it and discussing that on the show in recent weeks. This is also contributing to more revenue. The government is relying more and more on the top tax earners, who are carrying a vastly disproportionate share of the tax burden. Let's bring in now senior correspondent at the Financial Review, Aaron Patrick. Aaron, great to see you. So, look, this is the question. This is going to be a short-term surplus. It'll be a surplus this year, and then it'll go back into deficit in the forward estimates. How much of this is because of Jim Chalmers and the government's work in having spending restraint, and how much of it is just because there's been such an increase in tax revenue from company tax profits, personal income tax and higher commodity prices?
Well, virtually none of this is due to the government's spending restraint. It's mainly due to the fact that the world wants our coal and it wants our gas, and a lot of Australians are in work at the moment. And so they're paying a lot of income tax, but they're also drawing down less in welfare. So Jim Chalmers has to be one of the luckiest treasurers in modern Australian history.
Look, he does point out, though, that they are returning, he says Labor's returning 82% of the revenue upgrades and 87% across the first 2 budgets to the bottom line. And he points out that the coalition, however, only returned 40% of the gains to the budget bottom line. So does this indicate that there is spending restraint?
He could have done better than he has done, but he hasn't done everything badly. He's still going to spend $14 billion on subsidies for childcare centres. He's still going to give 5.5 million people energy relief. He's still going to increase JobKeeper for 700,000 people. He's still going to increase welfare for single parents when their kids are now 14 years of age instead of 8 years of age. So he hasn't done everything bad, but he certainly isn't contracting as much as economists would like him to, given the aim of the game at the moment is to lower demand, not increase it, which is what he's partly doing.
Look, and it's interesting, you know, it's very hard to say that a single parent in these tough economic times doesn't deserve an increase to their welfare. But also, as you say, he's looking at increasing job seeker, people who don't have any work at all, higher petrol prices, higher mortgage or rents. It's a very difficult set of economic circumstances for the most vulnerable. But then economists are saying that the welfare, the $14 billion cost of living welfare package that Jim Chalmers says is the centrepiece of his budget, they are saying that that is inevitably inflationary. He denies that this will have an inflationary impact. Who is right here?
Well, what's happening is he's putting more money into the economy than he otherwise needs to. And while he may bring down, for some people, the cost of, say, electricity overall the impact will be inflationary. And what will happen is that the Reserve Bank will have to increase interest rates more than it otherwise would, and that's going to push people out of jobs in the years to come.
And already we haven't seen the official figures. The budget will be handed down at 7:30 tonight, but it does look like unemployment forecasts will go up. You know, we're at record lows at the moment. It's under 4%. We are expecting the unemployment forecasts to reach about 4.5%. As I say, we'll know those figures in a couple of hours' time.
That's the whole objective of economic policy at the moment, which the government is allowing the Reserve Bank to take the lead on. And the reason we've got cash rates at 3.8% when they were at 0.5% a year and a half ago is to push people out of work. It's to increase unemployment. That's the objective, because that'll reduce demand and reduce inflation.
So overall, do you think we have a situation, and as I say, we haven't seen the complete budget picture, but we know there's going to be a surplus. We know there's a brief surplus just for 1 year, a $14 billion cost of living package. Do you think overall we can already say that monetary and fiscal policy isn't working in tandem?
They're not working in tandem. They're not working in the same direction, because if they were, this government would be cutting spending instead of increasing it. But I think Jim Chalmers will make the point, and you acknowledged it before, that it could have been a lot worse. And he's had a lot of new Labor ministers come to him and ask him to start spending a lot. And he has, in part, resisted that. So they are at odds with each other, but I guess it's a new government and they want to make some people happy.
Look, we're going to get an updated number, of course, in tonight's budget on the total cost of the Stage 3 tax cuts. But I think they pose quite an interesting dilemma. On the one hand, is this the right time for Stage 3 tax cuts when inflation is at 7% and it'll still be high when they come in? But on the other hand, bracket creep is such a problem and the Stage 3 tax cuts do adjust the threshold. So what's your view on this?
Well, Stage 3 tax cuts affect people earning up from $120,000 to $200,000
But it also helps people from $45,000 a year up as well.
It does, it does. The focus has been on those higher income earners. The thing is, these are the people who drive the country. These are the people who create the wealth. These are the only people who haven't been able to get a tax break. These are the people who are paying more taxes year after year as inflation drives them up. So in our society, do we want to encourage innovation? Do we want to tell high achieving, driven people that it's okay to go out and make a living, to make a good living? Because if we don't believe that, then we should cancel these Stage 3 tax cuts. But if we want to be in an innovative, wealthy, rich economy, we should allow successful people to earn more of what they, to receive more of what they earn.